Hi, I'm Marcel, living in Russia, and today I'm in Moscow, and we are at the gates, the Napoleon Gate. It's actual gate where Napoleon stopped, and in the War of 1812, where the city of Moscow was lit on fire and denied to him, so that all that Napoleon had was a burnt down city to conquer. And obviously, we know how that story ended. As well, I'm here with the expat American.
That's correct, Marcel. Thanks for having me on. So I am from Florida. I've been living in Moscow since 8 days before the special military operation started. And Marcel and I have done a lot of videos together. This is only our second video in person and our first one in Moscow. And since I am more of the expert in Moscow than he, I'm going to give him a tour of this park right over here, which is the World War II themed park, you could say, across the road. They call it the Great Patriotic War. And you see all these red flags everywhere. That's because it is Victory Day this week in Moscow. And they have motorcycles here, and they're cool. And it's Victory Day in Moscow, in Russia, and in many, many Eastern countries.
All right, so let's go for a tour.
So this is the entrance of the park. And what I found very striking when I first came here is this massive park. I came here for the first time with Sveta, who wasn't even my girlfriend at the time, in 2012. And it was winter, well, it was November. And I remember thinking, oh, I want to go to that tall thing in the back there. And we just walked and walked and walked. And it's something that in the US, I think I've only seen something similar to this, like in DC. But I haven't seen such a display specifically for what we would call World War II, what they call the Great Patriotic War. And I find it very, very interesting that they are still celebrating it and they have not forgotten it. Whereas in the US, at least, I don't know about Canada, but there's not a whole lot of emphasis anymore on World War II. If anything, it's a cool Hollywood movie every once in a while.
But I definitely see it all done in a Western perspective when it's advertised or there's media about it in the West.
So I think it's important that they remember, and I wish that we all remembered. I wish my country remembered as much as this country does.
Yeah, I think when it comes to World War II and celebrating Victory Day, for me it's pretty important to see that and actually pay respect to the huge sacrifice that the Russian Soviet Union did to stamp out Nazism in that time. And I think it's a shame that in this modern age, again, we are experiencing the rise of those ideologies and they're trying to whitewash that history.
Yeah. Hey, you see we've got statues here. We got the Russian flag there. Do you know what that says in Russian, Marcel?
Yeah, Gerom, Pervoy, Miravoy, Vayne.
Which means?
Heroes of the First World War.
Fantastic.
There's my Russian test.
And there's red flags everywhere, and there's more behind you. And it's like this all over the city right now.
Absolutely.
I just left my neighborhood, and they had the red flags like in a bunch. They just got them bunched up everywhere, like roses or flowers. And you see we have statues of flags all along this pathway here.
So predominantly, this is more victory of World War I.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's got different parts to it.
Okay.
Because I know that I see lots of plaques stamped with 41,
okay,
42, things like that. And the museum is ahead, that giant building.
Yeah.
And that's got like a mock-up of the Brest Fortress. So here's the first plaque I think we're coming to. You see we got the
cobblestone.
Nice cobblestone. And this red, white, and blue building here, you see these are new structures that I think are going to be little restaurants. So 1941.
There we go, that's World War II.
And these are carnations.
And for Westerners who are watching this, 1941 was not a year that a lot of the Western forces, they didn't enter the war until much later.
Yeah.
So the brunt of the force and the invading Nazi forces that came through Belarus and Smolensk and all those areas, they were burning down villages one after another with people alive in dachas and stuff like that. So you can't expect society here to forget those kind of atrocities, in my opinion. And that's what I think is really being whitewashed, is the actual big beginning of World War II.
Yeah, I agree. You can see behind the tree line, there's a kids' play area there. Lots of parks for kids in Russia, where they're encouraging people to have kids. And you can buy hot dogs and regular things here, like you would buy at a traditional park in the West.
We're getting some pretty amazing weather though, eh, aren't we?
Yeah, the weather is great. I just got back from being out of town, and when I left a week ago, I was cold. I was wearing a coat, and I wish I had a scarf.
Yeah.
When I came back on the train
See, this is
yesterday.
1942 now.
Yeah.
So it's for every year, likely, of the war. Along as we walk closer to this cenotaph or monument.
Yeah. Incarnations, that's the standard. If you ever end up dating a Russian woman, don't buy carnations.
Oh, definitely not.
As a funeral or some sort of memorial. The other day, my son made that mistake.
Yeah.
Bought mom carnations. She said, luckily they weren't red. I would have thrown them out the window.
Yeah, she's very cognizant of all the traditions that need to be followed, and your kids are starting to learn all that, right? I assume.
Yeah. So you see, we've got an Orthodox church on the property. If you turn around, Marcel, look over here. You see Moscow City right there. And so Russians have told me that's been made to look like sort of like New York or London. But some Russians, when I say that, they get upset. They don't want to hear that.
It's very cool. I know when I came last time to Moscow, I came on a Sunday morning when the city was just dead, quiet, and I stepped out, and that city center was just like, didn't look real. It looked like a toy almost.
Right.
Because there was no people at the time.
Here's 43. And what's cool is if you like, pictures and videos, if you stand near the Orthodox Church in the right spot, you can get the Orthodox Church and the city behind it.
I can only assume we're going to get up to an eternal flame here at the peak, I would think.
Yep. Well, you can put the camera on me if you want while we walk, and
Sure.
I can try and say something to keep the video interesting. So if you guys don't know me, I am Florida. I moved here, like I said, right before the SMO started, which was, of course, a total coincidence. I didn't know the SMO started. Because my wife is Russian, she missed her home. And we thought we'd spend a few years here. But then the SMO started. Some people were leaving the country. Definitely Westerners were leaving the country. And our friends were telling us we shouldn't have come, we needed to leave. And I did wonder, did I make a mistake? But I decided not to leave, I decided to stay. Because I knew that Russia was for traditional family values. It was trying to be a Christian country. And I just thought it would be wrong just to run away in fear. I wasn't happy with the West. And so once I decided to stay and I sweated it out for a few months, I started to start my YouTube channel. And basically at first it was just to be fun and normal, so that people would see Russians as normal people. But over time, I decided I needed to become more to try to make a difference that way.
definitely. I think I'm got very similar sentiments. I was planning 10 years to come and live, gathering the necessary resources. And I could see the progression of politics deteriorating. Hence why I call my show sometimes like that segment the trajectory, because we've kind of always been on a negative trajectory, and I've failed to see any de-escalations that are meaningful.
Right, right. So we've come to the stairs here. It's, there's all kinds of carvings on this obelisk, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, that is an obelisk, and it's huge.
And that dome behind it, that pointy thing on top, looks painful.
I believe there's a mosque back there. I saw, as
There
well
is.
as
That's not the mosque. The mosque
no,
is further away.
yeah.
The mosque is made of
There's the other religious temples around here. There's a Jewish temple as well, a synagogue back there. Looking at the maps.
and you have a better view behind you now that we went up the stairs. And there, of course, is a lot of details here that we can stop and see. We just don't have time to put it all in one video, so
Yeah.
we're moving kind of quickly through the whole thing.
It is impressive to see the stature of these monuments to their history, actually. Uh, I know in Canada, I've been to the War Museum there, and it's like this modern kind of aberration of, I don't know, it's not that impressive in terms of historical coverage of things.
I mean, I understand, the for the Americas, the other side of the globe. But World War II was bad because soldiers did perish of ours, but it wasn't being fought on our soil where whole families were being wiped out. So this guy's chopping up a serpent here. And while it's blocking the sun, you can see the carvings in it. But yeah, it's like the war ended and the West went right on to making their 1950s Christmas memories there, and their 1960s peace and love, and we had Vietnam in the 70s, kind of a depressing time for us. Marks us more than World War II at this point, Westerners anyway.
I definitely think that the global West was awakened back as far back to those periods, where they saw what the Americans were bringing into the region to counteract, so to speak, communism.
Here's the Eternal Flame right here. There's one at Red Square as well. These things are all over.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just in Orenburg, which the end of Europe. They were their territory was middle of basically on the Whiskey Museum. This is the entrance.
Yeah.
So, tour guide, but you are the military expert, Marcel. So, what are these?
These are, I'm not sure the caliber, fairly big, 155 maybe a little smaller. Yeah, these are definitely old. Tell by the tires. But they're big. I mean, this is above my weight, hip weight. And look at Joseph's a very tall man, and those tires are pretty big beside him. So I'll cut my video here. There's a paid area in here where you can go and see all the individual tanks of different years.
And military expert, I believe that's a half track.
That is a half track, yeah.
Nice. And we're going to end the video so it doesn't get too long, guys. But we encourage you to come over to my channel because over the top of this hill, rather than World War II tanks, Great Patriotic War tanks, there's actually new tanks that have been freshly captured. And we're going to do those on my channel right now. But make sure you like and subscribe to Marcel's channel right now. Share this video and then go over to my channel and see us there.
Thanks, guys.